For those of you that didn't hear me 60 seconds ago, I want to welcome all of you to this webinar that is being hosted by the American School of Bombay, as well as the Global Recruitment Collaborative, which is as it says in its name, a group of international schools from around the world that have come together to create a format and a structure for educators to move between schools and to provide schools the opportunity to recruit. We have customized today's webinar not to speak just to educators. We've invited people from the corporate world, from the HR world, etc. Positioning yourself in a competitive market really doesn't matter what market that is. Whether it's hospitality or transportation or education or hospitals, health, etc. Positioning is positioning. So today, regardless of what market you're coming from, what sector you work in, we are hoping that there's some value to your time spent with us today. So with that, we'll jump right in. There's a great quote by Wendell Johnson. As an English teacher, I was always telling my students, always and never are two words you should always remember never to use. Nothing is always, and nothing is never. Except today. Today, I think we can say the global market has never been as messed up and as competitive as it is today. Can you imagine a time in the world where the hotel business was more competitive to get a job than today? Hotels are letting 70% of their employees go. They're not even looking. And if you are just graduating or if you are in the hotel business, to get a job right now, there has never been a more competitive time. Schools around the world are shrinking and resizing and retrenching between 5 to 50% of their faculty. This is not to say there are not jobs to be had. There is always a job to be had. One of my very close colleagues is well known for saying, there is no such thing as unemployment. There are only less employable people. There's no such thing as unemployment. There are just less employable people. And the tragedy of employment is that oftentimes the best candidates don't get the offer because they have failed to position themselves so that the recruiters recognize the value they'll bring to the organization. Our entire job market, regardless of sector, is skewed towards a certain type of candidate. It is not skewed towards the best fit candidate. So what my colleagues and I from the American School of Bombay are hoping you get from this is how do you best position yourself to be that best fit candidate? Because as I mentioned, it is nuts out there. It's just completely crazy. For every job right now, depending on the sector, there are between 20 and 70% more candidates for the job than there were 6 months ago. 20 to 60% candidate pool growth in the last 6 months because of the coronavirus pandemic across the world. So moving from either one job into the next, or moving from not having a job into the next, or moving from university into your first job, there are more or less 5 big steps to the process. If you already have a job and you're looking to move, you have the resignation part. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how do you go about resigning from your current position. If you don't have a job, then basically the resigning piece is already done. If you're at the university, you view it as graduation is the resigning process. So of the 5 steps, when you need to think about this, and please feel free to take pictures, take notes. There's no intellectual property here. This is just Mario, Frenny, Chitra, and Craig's experience from years, decades of recruiting, decades of trying ourselves to be in the market. This is kind of our thought structure. So there's the resigning step. Then there's the search process. And oftentimes the search process and the resigning process are happening at the same time. In many of your sectors, like in the education sector, we often are looking for our next job before we actually resign from our current job. So there's some overlap there. And then there's the candidacy. That's you. So there's the resigning part, there's the searching of the market, and then there's positioning yourself as a candidate. This is the piece I'm going to spend most of our webinar on. I'm going to touch on the resigning. I'm going to touch on the search process. I'm going to deep dive into the candidacy. I am not going to talk about the offer, and I'm not going to talk about what you do in the first 100 days of your new job. And when I say 100 days of your new job, I mean no matter what your job is. There is a transition into the new job that the research and the experience tells you how to be successful for the long haul, how to fit into the culture, how to get along with your colleagues, how to impress your supervisors. So today, resigning a little bit, search process a little bit, boom, big work on candidacy, and maybe we'll structure another webinar later on the offer and the new job. Mario, what's our count right now before I really dive in? Are we good?
We are at 212 right now.
Okay, so people are still coming in. Maybe when it's really flatlines and people have stopped coming in, just remind me, Mario, and I'll come back to this slide just so everybody knows what we're actually doing. I want people to be aware of the objectives today. Okay, so the 5 steps. But before anything, there is one thing every successful candidate does. And like I said, sometimes the best candidates fail miserably because they don't get the process right. They haven't cracked the trick of getting themselves to be considered the best candidate. The first thing any candidate does, regardless of sector, regardless of your experience, is you put together what we call at the American School of Bombay, your huddle. Your huddle is the group of people that help you, support you, give you advice and assistance, and guide you. I don't care how experienced you are. If you come into any market, forget the COVID market, come back before COVID. If you enter the market without a huddle, and I'm going to explain what a huddle is in a minute, you are greatly diminishing your return of energy, of investment, and the odds of you getting a job. Your huddle are the people that you put around your candidacy. For instance, and just to show you what I mean, there are 2 parts of the profile of what a person in your huddle should be. There's the people in your huddle, they must be this, and if you can, try for this. So for instance, the people in your huddle must be connected. There is no reason on connected to put your grandmother in your huddle if she is not connected into the ecosystem of the sector you're looking for a job. Now, this doesn't mean everybody that's given you a card over the last 5 years is in your huddle. Who are those people that you know that are connected and would give you honest and candid advice? The number of times that I have seen, I am not telling you shoot below your potential, but I'm also telling you that you need to be realistic and pragmatic in where you're shooting for. If you only have 1 year of experience, are you really going to apply for the general manager of the Grand Hyatt? Or are you going to be applying for something within the Grand Hyatt at a lower space? You need to get that honest and candid feedback, and connected people can give you that feedback. And you need people in your huddle that are truly invested in you and are going to take the time to work with you and get you FaceTime, get you an interview, get you a phone call. So your huddle are your ex-bosses, your current colleagues, people you've met at workshops, people you've met at conferences, people who your supervisors know can connect you to them, and they can give a good word in, and you can be connected. So your huddle is putting those people around you that must be connected. They must be honest and candid, and not also honest and candid in what are they going to say about you, and invested in you. You don't want to surround yourself with people that don't care about your success, are not going to give you honest feedback, and are truly not connected. So those are the must-be's of your huddle. What you need to try for is the people in your huddle should be recently connected and also recently have worked with you. I get phone calls all the time from about people I worked with 10 years ago. I can't remember. I don't have accurate information. And when they find out I haven't seen or worked with this person for 10 years, it makes them think, why would this person connect me with someone from 10 years ago? Is there not someone more recent? So in your huddle, and when I'm talking about huddle, I'm also talking about your references, but I'll get to that later. So try for recent and people who can truly speak about you. They need to be informed about you. I cannot answer a question as a reference or a member of your huddle that says, I don't know, can't remember, not sure. I'm actually hurting your candidacy if I'm not recent and I don't have information about you. And lastly, proactive. You want people in your huddle that are actually going to think about you and send you a text and say, did you know there's an opening in this business, in this organization? Here's a website, check this out. You don't want these people to always be the ones responding to you and you call them. So first things first, if you are going to go into the job market, you must prepare a huddle around you to guarantee and to greater ensure your success. There is a Q&A app on this. If, as I'm going through this, you have questions or comments, put them in there. My team of Chitra, Frenny, and Mario are going to be vetting the questions, and then we're going to pause every once in a while or at the end, and I'll take some questions. But with 250 people on here, it's just not conducive to us just having open dialogue. I apologize for that. So the first thing, to resign. So let's assume for a moment that everyone on this either has a job. If you don't have a job right now, think about this, about the future. You need to have a reason to resign, and there are really good reasons to resign. But when you're thinking about that, there are three key questions. Question number one, am I leaving? Or am I just playing around? Let me explain why. A lot of people start looking in the market, but they don't really want to leave their job. That does two negative things. Number one, if your current organization, your current supervisors, your bosses find out that you're flirting in the market, they don't know you're flirting in the market. They think you have actually lost a bit of the loyalty, lost a bit of the commitment to the current organization. And by the way, in today's world, assume from the beginning, everybody knows everything that's going on. Don't think for a moment that you can have a conversation with these different organizations without it coming back to your current organization. So number one, am I really leaving? Make the decision. If you're not committed to leaving, but you're playing, it does two things negative. Number one, it creates a lack of faith in your bosses. And number two, it takes your energy and your productivity of your job away because you are now distracted. You're now thinking about it and your energy is actually now split. So I am one of these who's always said, when people come to me and say, Craig, I'm thinking about maybe next year is my last year at the American School of Bombay. I say, great, go think. And I won't talk about it. When you've made a decision, come talk to me and I will do everything I can to make sure you move from the American School of Bombay to your next dream school. But make the decision. That's number one. Number two, you have to have clarity of why am I leaving? By the way, I'll talk more about this as we go, but in this game of getting a job, there can be no surprises anywhere, especially to yourself. And the number one question any future employer is going to ask you is, why did you leave your current position, or why are you planning on leaving your current position? You need to have a really good reason. If you do not have a good reason, I think that you lack clarity. I think that you lack decisiveness. I think that you lack self-actualization, self-realization, self-awareness, lack of understanding of the market. So if you sit there and go, good question, I haven't really thought about why I'm leaving. I'm like, whoa, all right, next candidate. Again, you could be the best candidate, but I'm not going to take you any further if you don't know why you're leaving. There are good reasons for leaving. And I'm going to give you the top 6. Now, there are hundreds of reasons for leaving, but they're small. I'm going to give you the top 6 big reasons why someone would leave a job to go to another job. And you need to think about which of these, 1, 2, or 3 of them apply to me, and then what underneath each of these is the real reason I want to be able to talk about, okay? So I'm leaving for family. I'm leaving for love. My fiance lives in Kerala. I'm here. I need to go. She needs to come. My parents are getting elderly. I'm going to leave and go back to the US. I'm looking for a job there. This is like a no-brainer. Everyone knows that family and love pulls us and pushes us in directions geographically, etc. Number two, time. There comes a time in your relationship with an organization that it's just time to move on. So literally you can say, I've been at this since college, since university. This was my first job. And I know there's so many more opportunities out there. I just want to experience something different. So time is a good reason. Growth. Time and growth are often, they go hand in hand. Let's use education as an example. Oftentimes in education, you will have a department head in a very good organization. There's not going to be a principal job opening for next couple of years. This department head has a very good reason to talk to his bosses here and say, I'm looking for growth. I want to be a principal. And I know nothing's going to happen here, so I'm looking at other opportunities. I appreciate that because I want my people to grow. I understand this, and they get it. They're like, of course, a principal job opens up. You're coming from a really great organization. You become a candidate. So family, love, time, growth. Fit. When I took this job 5 years ago, it was a perfect fit. What I was looking for culturally, what I was looking for mission-wise, what I was looking for in my colleagues, it was fantastic. Since then, we've moved out of this particular market and we're now more into this market. And it's not as strong a fit for me. I'm looking for something with a better fit. Fit needs, and again, you got to dig into fit, and fit can be dangerous as well. The one thing I never want to hear when I'm interviewing somebody is I never want to hear you talk ill of your current or past organizations, bosses, or colleagues. No matter how you feel about that, you know what? There's a certain grace and dignity with which you want to approach your candidacy. When you start talking ill of your past, I believe you might in the future talk ill of me. So the fit cannot be, my boss is very aggressive, very draconian, I'm not respected or treated well by my colleagues, they're not giving me the kind of work I really want. All of that brings a negative energy into my conversation with you. I'm not interested. Everything you just said can be said better. You can talk about style, my supervisor's style, my style. He's very delegative. I need a little bit more structure. And I'm looking for an organization that has a bit more structure so that I can grow. There are so many ways of saying that. Lifestyle. Quality, air quality. At the American School of Bombay, people come here, they love ASB. 4 or 5 years later, they want to move somewhere where there's not so much traffic, where the air quality is better, where they can jump into the sea, where they can go hiking and fishing, where they can camp out. I get that. So they leave us and they go to the island of Mallorca in Spain and work there. Lifestyle. You know, I need some place where there's a hustle and bustle. I want to be somewhere there's nightclubs and somewhere there's restaurants stay open till 3 a.m. Lifestyle. So we get that. Why are you currently leaving? Because I'm looking for a different lifestyle. Again, with lifestyle, if you're leaving Mumbai and you're talking to somebody in Delhi, they're not going to understand a lifestyle. So they don't think that you're being authentic. If you're talking to an organization in Goa and you're leaving Mumbai, lifestyle becomes a talking point. And of course, package. We often move because the package has changed, or we're looking for more money, we're looking for better benefits, we need, we're at a different age, we're having children, I want my health insurance package. So package is a good reason. It's not, you're not saying I'm looking for more money. You need to say I'm looking for a package that does this for me. Currently, I have this package. Your organization offers this package. It's more attractive to me. So these are the top 6 reasons when you come to resigning and you start thinking, am I really going to leave? Why am I going to leave? Think about these 6 reasons and start building your discussion points. Again, no surprises. If you go into an interview and you don't expect them to ask you, why are you leaving and what are you looking for in your next job? Then you are not prepared and you're going to miss out on the next round. which brings me to this one. The third question you need to be thinking about and you need to really prepare for is, what are you looking for in your next job? And it has to match. Why am I leaving my job? What am I looking for in my next job? Has to tell a story. It has to talk about your evolution as an employee, your evolution as a colleague, your evolution as a candidate. So the three questions, as you're thinking about leaving your current job, or if you already are out of a job or you're at university and you're looking for your first job, is why am I leaving? First of all, am I leaving? Make up my mind so I can put my energy into it. Why am I leaving? And what am I looking for? Then when you've done that, it brings you to the search. Now you begin to search for your next job. By the way, search in today's market is so easy. It's right in front of you on your computer. It's right in front of you on social media, but you have to be linked into the right things. You could be following 1,000 things on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram, but you're following the wrong things. So what am I looking for in my next job? Do the work and begin to follow the organizations that will connect me to the openings in the market. So the search. As you're looking for your next job, you need to be disciplined about it. You need to be strategic about it. You need to prepare a rubric that will allow you to make choices. And I'm going to talk more about this as we go. The buckets that you need to be looking at. Again, I'm a big bucket person. I want to say, put everything into a bucket so I know what we're dealing with. When you put this rubric together of what am I looking for in my next job, there are three main buckets: lifestyle, package, and the job. So you need to, as an individual, as a husband, as a wife, as a parent, or as a single person, you need to sit down, look inside yourself and say, what are the 5 to 7 most important things in my lifestyle that need to be available to me in my next job? Do I have to have clean air? Do I have to have high-speed internet and technology? Do I need to have access to the outdoor life? Must there be an international airport with direct flights to my parents' home? Must there be good hospitals? What is it in your lifestyle? Do I need to have a house? Is it an apartment? Can I share an apartment? What is it about your lifestyle? 5 to 7 of the big things that you can now start comparing, even if you're only looking in Mumbai. What about the commute? If you live in Thane, if you live in South Bombay, if you live in Kurla, are you willing to really look at a job where you're going to be spending 3 hours a day driving? The job might be perfect, the package might be perfect, but your lifestyle, maybe not. So all the lifestyle, the package, my insurance, my take-home salary, my retirement benefits, are they going to pay for my children to go to school? Do I get a transportation stipend? Am I working for a company that's going to allow me to take a bus from the train station? All of the package things that are important to me, 5 to 7 of them, so I can compare offers, compare job opportunities as they come. And then lastly, the job. What am I doing now? Why am I leaving this job to go to this job? The job could be the same job. Package is better in the new job. Lifestyle is better. Makes sense. But if the lifestyle is the same and the package is the same and the job is the same, why are you leaving? Because my next question to you 3 years from now is going to be, you worked here and did this, then you worked here and did this. So literally you have 8 years of experience of the same job. Why did you leave A for B? So the job has to be different. That's where you're looking for growth, you're looking for fit, etc. So again, I am coaching you to be super disciplined in how you're going to go about your search. Prepare the rubric, 3 big buckets, 5 to 7 smaller criteria below each, and then weigh it. If you're a young person just getting into the market, the most important bucket is the job. If young people come to me and they say, I've got this great job, but I'm going to have to be driving back and forth for about 1.5 hours or 2 hours. I'm like, so? You have not been in the business long enough to be choosy about your lifestyle. Oh, you know what? They're not paying me enough, so I could do this other job, which isn't very good, but they're going to pay me more. You're 21 years old. Forget the money. Go to the job. Go to the job. if you're a young person, the job is everything because it does two things for you. Number one, it prepares you to be a better candidate later on. And number two, your resume looks better. When I look at a resume, I look at where are they coming from? What have they done? I don't know about their package. I don't know about their lifestyle. But if I look at the organization they worked for and I'm impressed with that organization, then it carries pedigree for you. So if you're young and you need to prove yourself in the market, job is most important. Package and insurance becomes more important when you have a family, etc., lifestyle. So weigh this depending on where you are in your life. So resigning, then we come to the search, the three buckets. And this brings us to the big piece of today's webinar, your candidacy. So basically what I'm going to talk about is how to position yourself against the growing competition. And I used to say this last year. And when I said this last year, I said growing competition because everyone is breaking out of the market and the market sectors are fragmenting. And there's a lot of entrepreneurship. There are jobs emerging that are killing traditional jobs. So I was thinking growing competition like that. But in today's post-COVID, growing competition means there's just not enough jobs to go around. And simply telling people, I'm the best teacher, I am the best manager, I am the best HR person doesn't mean anything because everybody is saying it. So what I would like to do now is share with you what the research and what the American School of Bombay's experience is telling us about how to position your candidacy against an exceptionally competitive market. We've broken this down to 7 things. We could have 107 things, but we have narrowed this down. My team and I have narrowed this down to what we believe the big 7. Like if you do these 7, the other 100 aren't as important. But if you do the other 93 and not these 7, you're not going to be positioning yourself. So once again, take pictures, take notes. If you have questions, put them into Q&A and we'll come back. So first of all, when you're fishing for your next job, there are 3 approaches to it. I'm going to show you the 3 approaches. I'm going to be quiet for about 20 seconds. And I want you to think to yourself, which approach is more appropriate for what kind of a job and how effective and what are the pros and cons to each approach. So you're now fishing for your next job. Are you going to fish like this? Like this means you have a rod, the rod has a fishing cord, you have a hook on it, you put the bait on the hook, the bait is your candidacy, it's your resume, it's your contacts, it's your huddle, it's everybody. You put the bait on the hook, you throw the hook into the pond is the market, and then you wait. Number 2, you take a net, you go to the pond or to where the opportunities are, and you cast the net, and then you pull it in. Or do you take a fishing spear gun, get into the market, and go looking for your fish? So there are 3 ways to fish in the market. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Think for a moment. Where is each of these styles or these techniques or these methods appropriate? What are the pros and the cons? What will be most effective for you? Okay. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I think it's pretty obvious. If you go to the pond and you cast your net, you're going to get all kinds of different fish. You're going to get big fish, small fish, fast fish, slow fish, yellow fish, blue fish, every kind of fish. Where's your rubric? Your rubric that we just talked about was package, lifestyle, job. Now you're going to have to take every one of those fish and compare it. You are going to be wasting so much of your time. But if you just need a job, I got to pay the bills, cast the net. So there are pros and there are cons. Sitting and fishing, you're taking yourself and you're putting it out on LinkedIn. And you're saying, there, I've thrown it out on LinkedIn, let them find me. This is when you are not desperate for a job. This is when you are happy with your job. This is when you don't need to to be looking actively. You just throw it out there, and if something bites, you bring it in, you compare the one fish to your rubric, you keep it, you pursue it, you throw it back in. Spear hunting. Spear hunting is, you're not desperate, but you're very, very particular. You know exactly what you want. There are teachers working at the American School of Bombay that waited for the job to open at ASB for years because it didn't open, and finally that IB art job in the high school opened, boom, they shot the arrow right to us and we got them. They knew what they wanted. So there's a time and a place for different kind of fishing. The problem is, my friends, if you're looking for something specific and you cast the net, you will not get it. If you are looking and you need something now and you simply throw the hook into the pond, you're not going to get it. So think about the style and the method that you need to use in your approach to your next job. Okay, so that's number one. I told you there's going to be 7 things. Number one is, how are you going to go about fishing? Number 2, this is a quiz. Are you an umbrella candidate or are you an archer candidate? How are you positioning yourself? Think about this. What does Craig mean when he says you are an umbrella candidate or you are an archer? Because if you are an archer and you are positioning yourself as an umbrella, you will never get the job, and you will, if you did, you'll be miserable. If you are an umbrella and you're applying for an archer's job, same. Think about what Craig means, what's an umbrella candidate and what's an archer. You're right. An umbrella is a jack of all trades. Everything that falls under the umbrella is interesting to you. You can do it. You have the capabilities. An archer is a specialist. Are you a generalist or are you a specialist? If you are an ear doctor, why would you apply for a general practitioner's position in a child's hospital? You're not going to get it, and you're going to be miserable because you're going to be out of your domain. You want to fish in the pond of ear doctors. So to know thyself. When I talk to candidates and I say, so we have a 3rd grade position, we have a 7th grade position, we have a math position, we have a science position, and we have a high school physical education. I'm not sure, your resume is all over the place. And they say, I can actually do all of it. That's an umbrella candidate. Then I have to figure out, can they really do all of it? So number 2 is to know where are you on the spectrum between an umbrella and an archer? Homework. When I am interviewing people for the American School of Bombay, and they refer to my school as the American School of Mumbai, or they refer to my school as the International School of Mumbai, or the International School of India, or they don't even know where we are, the interview ends. When they don't know that we're almost 40 years old, when they don't know that we have 3 campuses, when they don't know that we are an IB school, when they don't know, how can you not know who you're talking to? Do your homework. How much homework is too much? None. You can never do too much homework on future employers on the job. Dig, and it is so easy to do. Everything is on the website. Dig and dig and dig. Do your homework. I am so impressed when someone comes into an interview with me and they know my school. They have talked to parents, they have talked to colleagues, they have talked to alumni, they have gone into our website, they have studied us. It just makes me feel like they really, really care about this job and about our school. I think first one was know what style of fishing. Number 2 was, are you an umbrella or an archer? Number 3 was, you can never do too much homework. Number 4 is, you have to personalize and differentiate yourself for my job. So in other words, if you know that we are an Italian restaurant, we're looking for waiters for an Italian restaurant, you might want to brush up on your Italian, study your Italian wines, know the different kinds of pasta, This is to put yourself in this job. If you are applying to be a waiter in an Italian restaurant and all of your experience has been in a Chinese restaurant, you have a large growth curve. Yes, you still have etiquette. Yes, you have great manners. Yes, you're well-spoken, etc. But how are you going to personalize yourself for this? If you are looking, so again, your candidacy for my job has to be personalized. I want to look at your candidacy that fits into my job. So this is the fourth thing. Personalize yourself. Okay, next thing. I know that any candidate that I get their paperwork, they are above the baseline. My HR department has already said this is the baseline. Everybody needs to have a bachelor's degree. Everybody needs to be a certified teacher. Everybody needs to be fluent in English, whatever that baseline is. Every organization for every job has a baseline. I don't even want to talk to people that don't hit the baseline. So if you get to me, I'm the head of the organization, I'm the CEO, I'm about ready to hire somebody for this job, and all you show me is baseline, interview's over. Assume for a moment when you get the interview that you're done with baseline. I don't want to know about below, I want to know about what's above. And this also talks about how you show the advantages of your candidacy. I've worked with Korean children at 5 years of age whose parents didn't speak English. Everyone applying for this job is a kindergarten teacher. They have all done 5-year-olds. You have done non-English speaking Koreans. Then you're going to talk about, I have worked with children with disabilities, these kinds of disabilities. I just want kindergarten teacher baseline. How are you going to excel? You have got to think about where are you above the baseline. And I'm telling you right now, if you have a good job, and when I'm talking about all of this, you have no idea where you are, you need to start figuring out how to answer these questions. I just gave you big questions. Question number 1, dear candidate, what kind of employee are you? Are you an archer or are you an umbrella? Number 2, tell me something about my organization. Have you done your homework? Number 3, how does your candidacy fit into what we're looking for specifically? Next, tell me about how your experience is different from every other kindergarten teacher in the market. What have you done above the baseline? And of course, the last piece is kind of differentiating yourself. I'm going to move on. Oh, please show me, don't tell me. I have spent thousands of hours in interviews where people are telling me they're creative. People are telling me they're collaborative. People are telling me they're curious. People are telling me they're hardworking. People are telling. None of it matters because anybody can say anything. Show me. And when I say show me, it means stories. It means anecdotes. So you need to go through and say, what am I going to talk about in my candidacy? I'm going to talk about how I'm proactive, how I'm resilient, how I am collaborative. And then I'm going to share stories to support and prove each one of them. Tell me, do you consider yourself a resilient person? Yes, I do. And what makes you think that? Well, if you remember last year when the coronavirus happened, I was on spring break in the United States. And when spring break ended, I couldn't get back into India. So I had to actually change my entire life and start teaching during the night because my kids were in India. So I slept during the day and then I worked at night. And it was tough at first, but I fought through it because my kids are really important to me. And I changed my entire lifestyle. I kind of became a vampire. That's resilience. Tell me how you're collaborative. So I think you get my point. Show me, don't tell me. I can sit through an interview where someone tells me that they're collaborative and they have high tech skills and they're innovative and they're well respected and they work hard. 5 great things. They tell me no stories. They have no proof points. They leave. The next candidate comes in to interview. They only work on, I am an innovator. Let me tell you what I have helped my students innovate. 1 skill, proof points, they win. So I'm going to show these 7 to you again. But before, by the way, people are always asking, what are employers looking for? What are CEOs looking for? What are the skills that we have to have? You've got to have a lot. But I would say that regardless of the sector that you are in, If you can show proof points and if you can have your references talk about these three things, you will rise to the top. Every business, especially in this competitive market, we are looking for profoundly effective collaborators. There is no job that's alone anymore. Nobody wants to work with difficult people. Nobody. Number one, collaboration. Number two, initiative. Initiative because coronavirus has changed the game. We can no longer be playing by the old rules. What are you going to help us initiate? Where is that? And thirdly, resilience. Like I said, coronavirus is not a 2-month problem. It is a multi-year problem. We are going to have to adapt. We're going to have to innovate. We're going to have to collaborate. We're going to have to be strong and tough and hard and bounce back. So as you're thinking about positioning yourself, think about your collaboration skills, how you're innovative and how you have initiation and resilience. And if you don't have stories, start making them. Start diving into your organization, looking for opportunities for you to build these skills so that you can talk about them. And the other things we just shared was hook versus net versus spear gun. Do your homework. Personalize you to the needs of the opening. What are their needs? Umbrella versus a specialist. Proof points that you're above the baseline. Your creative differentiation as a candidate, and show, don't tell. Now, the 4 stages of your candidacy. So once you've decided that you're going to resign, once you know the answers to the 3 questions of resignation, once you start looking at positioning yourself and taking those 7 key positioning phases, here's the candidacy. We're going to do one battle at a time, okay? The first battle you have to fight is your paperwork. And by the way, each of these battles is an end game. If you screw up your paperwork, you don't get the job. If you screw up your references, you don't get the job. If you screw up your interview, you don't get the offer. If you screw up the offer, you lose it. So there is a domino effect. You've got to get your paperwork right. You've got to get then you go to your references. You got to get your references right. Then you got to prepare for the interview, and you've got to hit the interview right. And then you've got to know how to accept and make choices of offers. Today, we are not talking about the interview. We're not talking about the offer. Maybe we'll offer another webinar later on. Today was about positioning yourself in a competitive market. And the first 2 ways to do that is understand the 7 keys, get your paperwork right, talk about your references, and then we're going to take questions and answers. So I'm going to show you, we're talking about paperwork. I'm going to show you 4 resumes. And I want you to think to yourself, which of the following resumes, and they're all blurred. I blurred them on purpose because I don't want you reading them. I want you just visually experiencing them. Which is the best of the 4 and which is the worst? We're not going to raise hands because we can't do that. Then I'm going to tell you my opinion. I'm going to talk about it. But I want you to think about for a minute, just looking at these, what is the best, what is the worst? And then I'm going to tell you what a CEO's opinion is. We have Jamie on the left, we have Mohammed second, we have Andy, and we have Millie. Just looking at them, you don't need to get in close, just looking, which do you think is the best and which do you think is the worst? Okay? There is no right answer. It's a trick question. It's a trick question because what job is Jamie Chastain applying for? Is he applying to be an actor on Broadway? Mohammed Patel has used almost a quarter of his resume to show his face. If he is looking for a security guard position, this is an awful resume. If he's looking to be an actor, it's necessary. Andy, if Andy is looking to be a police officer, I will not hire him off this resume. If he is looking to be the director of a child's kindergarten program, maybe. Millie Maxwell, otherwise known as MM, if she's applying to be a doctor, a pediatrician, interesting. A heart surgeon, MM, she took up a whole quarter of her page up there to put MM, her nickname. So You need to know what are you applying for and what would be appropriate, an appropriate way to present yourself. Let me show you one that I actually think is just bad for anything. I actually don't even know why he's used, basically, this person has used 60% of the space to do what? Cartoons. I would never consider this for any position because everything that I need to know is actually in a small note card. So he has taken information that can be put in a note card and he's given me a whole page with stuff. Same here, lots of blue and white space. And the font super, super small. So again, there is no reason why someone's paperwork should not be perfect because nowadays you have thousands of resume builders, but the resume you choose shows me your judgment and the way you view your job. Are you looking at this job through the right lens? So there is a right resume for the right job. And you need to think about how am I going to be perceived by the person looking at this? And by the way, you need to know, we look at hundreds, if not thousands of resumes. So are you gonna stand out or are you gonna stand out so much that I'm not interested, that I'm calling your judgment? Very nice one for me. For an educator, this is a really nice one. I wanna see the person because I'm gonna interview them. I'm gonna be reminded by the picture. I'm gonna make notes. I like this. For an educator, this is a really good resume. Now, bottom line, I get asked this question all the time. How big is the right size? I am the head of the American School of Bombay. This will be, if I look for another job, I'll be looking for my 4th headship. I have been in this business 30 years. I have never had a resume more than 2 pages. I've never had a resume. If the resume is more than 2 pages, it's because you don't have faith in me understanding what the job is. You are applying for a job in my sector. You don't have to tell me half a page of what a teacher does. I know what a teacher does. Tell me what you did as a teacher that I don't know. So I want to show you a trick that I've used on my resume. Here's a clip from my resume. So this is my headship prior to the American School of Bombay. So on my resume, I'll start with the more recent. So it'll say, head of the American School of Bombay, this is what I did. Then here, I said in one line, most duties and responsibilities in Brazil were similar to those listed above for Mumbai. A few unique ones were. So now I'm building my story. For my headship right now, I gave them 7 things that I do. By the way, the 7 things I do at the American School of Bombay, I can't say I hire teachers. I can't say I run the budget. I can't say that I ensure that the operations go smoothly. That's all expected. That's below the baseline. At the American School of Bombay, what did Craig do above the baseline that's different from heads of school around the world? How is my resume going to tell a story about Craig that's different than some other resume? So I did all of these things in Brazil, and so I'm just giving you one line. Now I've saved this much of my page. And now what were the unique ones? So now when they put all that together, it's building a story, a narrative that differentiates me and tells who I am. And plus, it makes it shorter. So paperwork, you gotta get your paperwork right. It's gotta be clean, it cannot have mistakes. You gotta have people look at it, you gotta have people proof it, you gotta put it through Grammarly, you gotta read it out loud, keep it simple. And then your references. So once you get your paperwork done, once you know you're leaving, once you're trying to position yourself in the market, you've got to get people to talk about you. References in jobs below entry-level jobs in any sector are the most important part of the entire selection process. Because people can put a great resume together and they can interview really well, but it's the references that tell the story that I've not seen. I can read the resume and I can talk to you. But your references will tell me stuff that you don't want me to know, stuff that you might say you're a great collaborator, but I need your references to tell me that. By the way, those stories, remember, in the interview that you're telling me about your collaboration, that you're telling me about your initiation, that story, I wrote it down. Now I'm gonna call your reference and say, Craig told me a story about when he did this, when he worked with the Korean children whose parents didn't speak English. And your boss is going to say, we don't have Korean kids in our school. Woo! Never, ever lie and always tell the truth. Sure, put your best self forward, but don't make up stuff. So the references. Let me share with you what references are actually looking for. I'm going to give you an inside look at references. The references I'm about to show you are the references from some of the largest headhunting firms in the world. And other organizations, other companies, other headhunting firms, they usually go to these, they get their reference checks, and they adapt them to their organization. So what I'm about to show you is what most HR people are looking at, what most CEOs are asking questions on. Again, take pictures, be prepared. This is what references talk about. So this is from one of the largest headhunting organizations in the world. I just took a snapshot of it. I'm sharing it with you here. And this is an educational one, but it could apply to anything. They said, what are the candidates' greatest strengths? Everybody wants to know the strengths. And by the way, they're going to ask me what your strengths are. They're going to ask your other reference what your strengths are. They're going to ask the third person what your strengths are. They're hoping there's an agreement on that. They're always going to say, what would you like to see this candidate improve on? So when you are looking for a new job, you need to let your references know what you believe your strengths are. What do you believe you should be improving on? And ask me what I think. So that when you're in an interview and they ask you what are your strengths, and then they talk to your reference and say what are their strengths, that there's some synergy there. How would this person react to a decision they did not like? Nobody wants to work with people who have difficulty with decisions that they don't like. No, it's not every organization's a democracy. And you're going to receive constructive criticism on your performance because we all want to grow. Are they open to that constructive criticism, or am I going to have to tiptoe around? These are the questions that make and break candidates. It blows my mind that people work in an organization and go out of their way to be difficult, to be uncollaborative, to just create problems. Why do you want to do that? And then you want to go out into the market. The one way to ensure that you will always be given an interview is to just be a high-performing collaborator who is resilient and who has initiative. What influence does this person have on morale? Anybody who scores below a 7, you're done. You're done. But what if I don't even know? What if me as a reference, they say, what impact does this person have on morale? I'm like, I don't know. You're done. You need people who are talking about you to be able to talk about your positive impact on morale. Who are the people that have positive impact on morale? Collaborators with initiative that are resilient. If you can have your colleagues and your bosses and your supervisors see these 3 things and be able to talk about these 3 things, you have a positive. Then look at all this other stuff. Take a picture, prepare. These are the questions you're going to be asked in an interview. They're going to ask you, I asked this, do you think your current employer would hire you back with great enthusiasm, moderate enthusiasm? What do you think? And they say, oh, they would hire me back like this. And then I ask, would you hire this person back? Like, nah. So there, again, lack of self-awareness. Look at these. Effectiveness, here it's in the classroom, but here it would be effectiveness behind the front desk. Effectiveness on the floor of the company. Knowledge of the product. Here it's knowledge of subject. Knowledge of the product. If you're a sommelier and you're serving wines, what's your knowledge of wines? If you are going to be working in the travel business, how familiar are you with the Mediterranean? How familiar are you with the tourist packages? Relationships with clients, relationships with clients, relationships with clients. Look at that. 16, 17, 18, 19. All of those questions are about relationships, 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 relationships. General interest in the client. Our clients are children. Again, take a picture. This is what everybody's talking about. And it continues. Look at 29, work ethic, energy and stamina, on the feet, moving, smiling, they're at work on time. Again, I'm sharing this with you because when I am checking your references, I'm asking them about your sense of humor. I'm asking about your ability to inspire your client, inspire your prospective client to bring in more clients. I'm talking to them like number 27. Do they openly communicate? I need to know when you are in alignment, when you're in agreement, when you disagree. Do they contribute to the culture of my organization? Are they adaptable? So I'm sharing this with you because you need to position yourself in a competitive market. If you can talk about these things in an interview and other people say, oh, that's a good question, I hadn't thought about that, you are now way positioned over them. So again, this is not secret, this is not intellectual property, this is just out there. To be a responsible candidate in a competitive market, you need to know what references are talking about, and you need to address these questions in the interview process, in your paper documentation process. So, paperwork and references done. It is almost 10 o'clock. We are not doing interview and the offer, but I'm going to give you the opportunity. So the other thing here is get your paperwork right, work on your references, understand the references. I do not understand how anyone above the age of 17 cannot know what references are going to talk about. We are going to talk about the candidate. We're not only going to talk about do they know math. Every math teacher, baseline, knows math. If I look at your resume and it says you have a bachelor's in math and you've been teaching math for 5 years, I don't need to ask your references if you know math. I need to ask your references about culture, about collegiality, about inspiration, about relationships. So if you think that your career as a math teacher is going to be spectacular because you know math, you are wrong. Math is the baseline. Everything else is the big picture. So get your paperwork, understand the references, understand what goes on. We'll talk about the interview and the offer at a different time, but I'm going to offer you the opportunity to really practice your interviews. So for the interview process, 2 things real quick. No surprises. That's what I was just saying. You've got to anticipate the questions. Go home on a Google Doc and do your homework and just Google the 25 most asked questions in an interview for somebody in the HR business. 25 of the top questions in engineering interviews. Get all those questions in, put them in a Google Doc, answer the questions authentically to how you feel, and practice your answers so you remember. Because we don't reflect and we don't introspect very often. So oftentimes we're not prepared for this. So no surprises, practice, practice, practice. And here are 2 opportunities for you to practice in the next couple days. Like I said, the American School of Bombay and the Global Recruitment Organization, we will be hosting on the 21st of May, there will be a global recruitment fair virtually. So right now, I don't know, we must have 250 people that are here. Let's assume for a moment that half of them are educators. I'm telling you right now that you have an opportunity on the 21st to go in and get interviews. So polish your resume, practice the questions, and get signed up to go in and practice. Even if you are super happy with your current job, practice interviews. There's no better practice than the real thing. There are 50 to 100 schools going to be interviewing from around the world. This is your chance to practice. So that's number 1. You can follow the GRC on Twitter, on Instagram, etc. The second thing is, again, the American School of Bombay, the GRC, and all of these schools down here, the participating schools, DSB, Mahindra, Oberoi, all of those schools down there are going to be interviewing teachers on the 23rd of May. So again, you could be at one of these schools right now. You're very happy at one of these schools, but if you want to practice, make the interview process work for you. Practice it. So these 2 opportunities are in the next, 10 days. So welcome to that. Take advantage of it. And that's all I have to say today. I hope that this hour was valuable to you as you think about positioning yourself in a competitive market. Thank you very much. I will turn it over to my colleagues. I think they've been looking at some questions. It's 9:59. Let's do questions for about 10 minutes and then we'll call it a day.
So Craig, we have a question on references and how far back they should go, and in the event you feel that your employer may not speak positively about you?
Okay, fabulous question. You must assume that your references will go back to the beginning of time, depending on your job. If I am looking to hire a waiter for my restaurant, I am going to look at the references from their last job. I'm not going to dig back 10 years. If I am looking for the principal for my elementary school, I am going to look back 10 or 15 years. We all grow, we all evolve, but I need to know because there are some things in character that don't change. I am looking for, if I go way back, I'm not looking for skill and disposition. If I go way back, I'm looking for character. I'm looking for integrity. I'm looking for honesty. I'm looking for those things that your character is who you are. So you should assume if you're applying for a high level leadership position that your people who are hiring you are going to go way back. Having said that, sometimes a bad reference is a good thing. Let me explain what that means. If I get a reference on a teacher and they said they had real difficulty working with their colleagues as when they first came, and if I know that school and I know that school has a culture of negativity and I know that school is not really doing the best thing for kids, then I can ask this person, I can say, was it difficult for you to transition? And they're going to go, yes, it was, because nobody wanted to collaborate. Nobody wanted to work after school. Everybody was gone by 3 o'clock. The expectations were kind of low, so I really struggled. So to answer that question, the higher up in the organization that you're applying for, the further back people will go. Your shadow will always be there. So best thing is, if you're a young person in the market, just build a strong reputation. Next.
At ASB, what are the strategies you use for administrative/support staff growth and empowerment? It's always not about teachers. The support is equally important to run a smooth school. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Craig, if we can put that like in the whole school community.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think what I would do with that question is take it out of ASB and just talk about all organizations. I think all organizations have the responsibility to develop people at every level according to their own plan. For instance, if we have 4 people at the American School of Bombay that work at the help desk, one of them might be very proficient in English, one might be struggling a little bit with English, one might have some personal hygiene issues where they're not dressing appropriately, and the other one might have a responsiveness problem, meaning they don't get back on phone calls very fast. If I take all 4 of these people and give them the same professional development, I am missing the boat. This person needs to be working on developing their English skills. This one needs to go to a personal grooming professional development. This one needs to be given tasks and applications on their phone to remind them to get work done. So I think, once again, not just speaking about ASB, but I think all organizations have the responsibility to develop their employees at all levels, but personalize that development. Having said that, most organizations fail in providing the effective professional development for people outside their core business. In schools, it's easy for us to commit to the professional growth and development of teachers because that's our core business. The problem is, if you develop your core business and your core begins to grow, the disparity between their proficiency and the rest of the team becomes more divided, and that's where your culture breaks. All ships need to rise, and all ships need to rise according to their own plans and their own place in the organization.
So Craig, there's another question which says, it is not always about skills of a candidate, but is about the personal values which cannot be merged with the organization values. How can this be tackled? In my opinion, everyone is able, just a chance is what is needed.
Yeah, I think that this person's sort of answered their own comment, and I agree 100%. Skills can be developed. Character, I don't have time to fix your character. I don't have time to make you honest. I don't have time to make you hardworking. I don't have time, to work with your integrity. I have time to develop your skills. And I think that to me is more important. There's the great book that I think all the HR people that are in this webinar have read. And it's like the Bible is Jim Collins' Good to Great. And one of the 6 things that Jim Collins and his Stanford team talk about moving organizations from good to great, the great organizations hire first who, and then figure out what they're gonna do. So the great organizations go out and they hire great collaborators who have a strength of resilience, who have innovative spirit, who are positive, good-humored people. And then we figure out where in the organization they're gonna work, and then we develop their skills. If you go out to find the best math teacher who doesn't have the who, you're gonna fail. If you go out to find a great educator who is a math teacher, you're gonna win. So I think this person, you're absolutely correct. We'll take 2 more questions.
What do you think COVID-19 will do to the job market for 2021?
Destroy it. It'll not only destroy it, but I'm very excited because it has changed the profile of the best candidate. For instance, when the American School of Bombay went virtual, we were a school where teachers were in classes, kids were in classes, parents were at school. And in that paradigm of bricks and mortar and schools that were physical structures, certain teachers were definitely more effective. Certain teachers were definitely more popular. Certain teachers were definitely more connected in the community than other teachers. Boom. COVID shattered that paradigm. We went into the virtual world. In the virtual world, some of these teachers that were really, really proficient and valued and high performers in the pre-COVID world were still amazing, but some of them dropped. And others that weren't that connected, weren't that well acknowledged, perhaps were under the radar, rose to the occasion. So I think that that's just education. I would say that's the same in all businesses, is that the pre-COVID candidate and the pre-COVID employee, the proficiency and the profile of them has been shattered, and a new avatar of high-performing employees is rising. And this is in COVID lockdown. Once we come out of COVID, whatever that hybrid existence looks like, there's going to be a hybrid profile that is going to be the high performer in our organizations. The skill sets are different. The dispositions are different. The collaboration online is different than the collaboration in a conference room face-to-face. So those skills and dispositions and character has been shattered. It's going to be put back together, and a new version of a high-performing employee is going to emerge. Last question.
Craig, it's 2 questions from 2 different people, but they're connected. Is it appropriate for us to ask why the last person quit? Why not say the real reason that you are leaving, even if it's negative?
Yeah. By the way, I think that you should share the right reason and the honest reason you left, but you don't have to say it in a negative way. For instance, you leave because you think that your boss is a sexist, judgmental, not hardworking person. You don't leave, you don't say I left because of that. You left because the values of your employee and of your employer and what they expected of you was compromising. And then when they say more specifically, then you can say things like, I don't want to speak ill of my former employer, but I was having issues with some of the integrity. I was having issues with the integrity of some of the tasks I was being asked to do. And I think I respect that. Don't make something up, and don't just, make it rosy, especially if we're in the same sector and if I know where you're coming from, and if you just give me that, I know what you're talking about. Let's take one more since it's only, I have 60 seconds to go. Is that it? Okay, Mario, can you still hear me?
Yes, I'm here, correct.
All right, so on behalf of the American School of Bombay and on behalf of the Global Recruitment Collaborative, I would like to thank all of the participants today. I hope you found value in it. Namaste, have a wonderful weekend. If I can keep my team on, we'll debrief.